countries to boost trade. The senior officials meeting was co-chaired yesterday by India's Foreign Secretary, His Excellency S. Jaishankar, and the Deputy Foreign Minister of Afghanistan, His Excellency Hikmat Khalil Karzai.
इंदर, भारत के संविधान और इसके स्वाधीनता संग्राम में अगर आप थोड़ा सा पीछे मुड़कर देखें तो जलियांवाला बाग, जिसका स्मरण आते ही एक बार फिर से अमृतसर का नाम बरबस ही मन में कौंधने लगता है। भारत की उन्नति और तरक्की के पथ पर आज अग्रसर इस पथ पर जब हम एक तरफ देखते हैं तो बहुत सारे लोग प्रतीक्षारत हैं आज छठे हार्ट ऑफ एशिया सम्मेलन में हमारे मुख्य अतिथियों के। वहीं दूसरी ओर जब हम नज़र दौड़ाते हैं तो हम पाते हैं कि भारत की प्रथम पंक्ति की स्मार्ट सिटीज़ की श्रेणी में भी हम बिल्कुल सामने खड़ा नज़र पाते हैं अमृतसर को।
As part of the Prime Minister's initiative to showcase and boost the wonderful cities of our country, Amritsar finds its true place today, and all these delegates who have come from across the world have seen a wonderful display of Amritsar's hospitality and warmth that is characteristic of Punjab. As we see the delegates reaching the venue and taking their respective places,
श्री डोभाल जी, जिनको हम इस समय स्क्रीन पर देख पा रहे हैं, और इस प्रकार से और भी बहुत सारे गणमान्य अतिथिगण हैं जो हमारे इस समय जो सम्मेलन है उसमें हिस्सा ले रहे हैं।
and one of the important delegates here has been the Pakistani Prime Minister's Foreign Affairs Advisor, Mr. Sartaj Aziz.
जी,
But right now we see the two co-chairs of today's event.
और यहाँ के जैसे आप देख पा रहे हैं एक अविस्मरणीय क्षण सभी के लिए, छायाकार भाइयों के लिए, प्रेस कवरेज के लिए एक ग्रुप फोटोग्राफ जो लिया जा रहा है।
And as the Afghan president shakes hand with Shri Arun Jaitley, and the group photograph is going to be followed by a quick dispersal, and the delegates as well as the ministers are going to take their respective positions. The Prime Minister, as you see, is greeting the various delegates.
और अब सब के सब जो हैं उस जगह पर पहुंच रहे हैं जहां पर अपना अपना वक्तव्य ये जारी करेंगे और हम जान पाएंगे कि क्या उपलब्धि रही है। इंदर, 2 दिन के इस सम्मेलन का आरंभ कल हुआ था और आज इस सम्मेलन की उपलब्धियों के बारे में विस्तार से हमें बताया जाएगा और कुछ ही पलों में सब लोग, सब अतिथि उस जगह पहुंच जाएंगे जहां से हम आज के इस सम्मेलन के जो कार्यवाही है उसको देख पाएंगे और समझ पाएंगे।
I think it'll be eagerly awaited what the Prime Minister of India and the President of Afghanistan have to say. There's a look of cheer and satisfaction on the Afghanistan Premier's face because the peace process is very important for the region as of now. On a warm, sunny, beautiful morning in Amritsar, conversations will be all about peace, prosperity, and promoting regional cooperation. Afghanistan has seen some troubled times, and terrorism has been the main focus of discussions yesterday as well. Let's see what are going to be the declarations, the resolutions, and the initiatives that will be taking shape in the near future as we move on from this conference to the next. But right now, the focus of attention is going to be on the proceedings today.
इस बैठक में व्यापार को बढ़ावा देने के लिए दक्षिण और मध्य एशियाई देशों के साथ अफगानिस्तान का संपर्क बेहतर करने पर भी चर्चा हो रही है। जैसा कि आप देख पा रहे हैं तमाम अतिथिगण इंतज़ार में हैं कि कब हमारे आज के मुख्य अतिथि हॉल में पहुंचें और कार्यवाही जो है वो शुरू की जाए।
And it's imperative that all the 14 member nations work closely together with the three pillars in focus: political consultations, confidence building measures, and cooperation with the regional organizations. And all the regional organizations, Gurvinder, play a very important role in building relationships across borders and creating an environment that is seamless and talks about improving the human condition in our developing and partly underdeveloped nations who form a section, an important section of this group.
सूत्रों से प्राप्त जानकारी के अनुसार इंदर ऐसा कहा जा रहा है कि इस बैठक में मंत्री स्तरीय सम्मेलन के जो मसौदे हैं उनको अंतिम रूप दिया जाएगा और घोषणा पत्र पर भी चर्चा होने की संभावना व्यक्त की जा रही है।
And yes, the entire press is waiting eagerly for the press conference that will be addressed by Shri Arun Jaitley later in the afternoon to give them a brief and detailed account of what happened in the conference today.
इंद्र, मुझे वो याद आ रही हैं आगा हशर कश्मीरी की लिखी हुई कुछ पंक्तियाँ जिसमें उन्होंने कहा था कि गर मेहरबां आते हैं जलवा नुमाई को, ज़र्रों को चाहिए कि चलें पेशवाई को। आज एक अविस्मरणीय पल, ऐसा क्षण जो इतिहास बनाने का पल है। छठे आज के इस हार्ट ऑफ एशिया सम्मेलन का आज अमृतसर से आप सीधा प्रसारण देख पा रहे हैं।
And for our viewers who would be wondering what has happened in the past, we would like to tell you that in 2013,
ऐसा मैं अपने तमाम दर्शकों को बताना चाहूँगा कि भारत पाकिस्तान की सीमा के निकट आज का ये जो सम्मेलन हो रहा है, इसके तहत भारत और पाकिस्तान की सीमा पर चौकसी जो कड़ी कर दी गई है और साथ ही साथ अमृतसर शहर में कड़े सुरक्षा प्रबंध किए गए हैं। लेकिन इन सब के बावजूद सब लोगों में उत्साह उसी तरह से बना हुआ है और गर्मजोशी के साथ अमृतसर आज पूरे विश्व के प्रख्यात नेताओं का स्वागत कर रहा है आज के इस छठे हार्ट ऑफ एशिया सम्मेलन में।
as I was talking about the history, in the second conference held in Kabul and thereafter in Kazakhstan in 2013, a lot of initiatives were started to aid Afghanistan in terms of providing education, in terms of developing projects that help create a better infrastructure and a more congenial environment in Afghanistan. And it's good to see that the 14 member nations, namely Afghanistan, Azerbaijan, China, India, Iran, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Pakistan, Russia, Saudi Arabia, Tajikistan, Turkey, Turkmenistan, United Arab Emirates and Uzbekistan come together to not only cooperate but also to lend a hand to Afghanistan, because regional peace cannot prevail when even one member is left behind. So, it not only fosters an environment of cooperation and working together, it also is an initiative for peace in the region.
इंद्र, जैसा कि कहा जाता है कि अतिथि देवो भव, भारत और भारतीय अपने आतिथ्य के लिए हम जाने जाते हैं और आज जब हम विश्व पटल पर देखते हैं तो हम महसूस करते हैं कि वसुदेव कुटुंबकम का जो सपना है, जो विचार है, वो साकार होता हमें नज़र आता है। आज पूरा विश्व ऐसा महसूस होता है कि अमृतसर की इस पवित्र पावन धरती पर पहुंच चुका है और एक बार फिर से एकता, अखंडता और भ्रातृत्व भाव का जो संदेश है वो फिर से एक बार गुंजायमान होने जा रहा है इस पवित्र धरती से।
Very well said, Gurvinder. And retracing the past and the history, there used to be the glorious Silk Route, which was the trade corridor in the past. And there are attempts to revive that trade corridor once again with cooperation from Iran, India, and through the Chabar region. We are looking forward to a future where not only Punjab, Amritsar, India, Pakistan, and further Afghanistan, we all are going to benefit if an active, peaceful trade corridor can be opened.
आने वाले समय में आज के इस क्षण को याद किया जाएगा। आज जीटी रोड जिसे हम जानते हैं, जैसा कि इंदुर आपने कहा, सिल्क रूट, ये रंगून से होता हुआ, भारत से होता हुआ अफ़गानिस्तान, काबुल तक जाता हुआ वो रास्ता जो सदियों से वाहक रहा है प्रेम का, पवित्रता का और समन्वय का। आज इस क्षण एक बार फिर हम उसी मोड़ पर, उसी जीटी रोड के, ग्रैंड ट्रंक रोड के बिल्कुल पास इस शिखर सम्मेलन में, इस सम्मेलन में जब हिस्सा ले रहे हैं तो वही भावना एक बार फिर से उजागर होती है। और ये हम देख पा रहे हैं कि हमारे आज के अध्यक्ष और हमारे आज के इस सम्मेलन के मुख्य अतिथि मंच पर शोभायमान हो रहे हैं।
And very soon we'll be handing over proceedings from the venue because the leaders would be addressing. As we see, the focus is going to be on...
We are honored to have in our midst the President of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan and the Prime Minister of India at the inaugural session of the 6th Ministerial Conference of the Heart of Asia Istanbul Process in Afghanistan here in Amritsar. To begin this morning's proceedings, may I invite Shri Arun Jaitley, Finance Minister of India, to deliver his welcome remarks.
President of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan, Prime Minister of India, Foreign Minister of Afghanistan, fellow ministers, excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning to all of you. I am honored to warmly welcome all of you to the 6th Ministerial Conference of the Heart of Asia Istanbul Process on Afghanistan in this historical city of Amritsar. We are privileged to welcome in our midst the Honorable President of Afghanistan and the Honorable Prime Minister of India. Their guidance will lead this conference to a successful outcome. I warmly welcome my ministerial colleagues from Afghanistan, Iran, Kyrgyzstan, Pakistan, Turkey, Turkmenistan, and the Slovak Republic, who is representing the European Union. I also welcome warmly the heads of delegations from all participating countries, supporting countries, and supporting international organizations, as well as their delegations. We are very happy to see delegations from the guest countries and appreciate their interest in the Heart of Asia process. Excellencies, today's conference represents the 6th edition of the ministerial meeting of the Heart of Asia Istanbul process, which began in Istanbul in 2016. It brings together all of us to assist Afghanistan through its multiple transitions. India is particularly happy to host this conference in view of our very close, friendly, and millennia-old ties with our neighbors, Afghanistan. We are ready to do whatever is within our capacity and means to realize the vision of the people and the leadership of Afghanistan to see a strong, independent, sovereign, united, and prosperous Afghanistan at the heart of Asia. I once again welcome all of you.
Thank you, sir. May I now invite the Foreign Minister of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan, His Excellency Mr. Salahuddin Rabbani, to deliver his remarks.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Excellency President Muhammad Ashraf Ghani, Excellency Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Honorable Foreign Ministers, distinguished heads of delegations, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I join Minister Arun Jaitley in extending a very warm welcome to the participating countries, as well as supporting countries and organizations to the 6th Ministerial Conference of the Heart of Asia Istanbul process. This year's theme of addressing challenges, achieving prosperity could not be timelier as we gather in the beautiful and historic city of Amritsar to discuss a substantive agenda today. We are profoundly grateful to the Republic of India for co-chairing the process throughout the year and hosting today's conference. While our historical and cultural relations dates back centuries, India continues to play a significant role in Afghanistan's stabilization and sustainable development. This is consistent with the goals of Afghanistan-India Strategic Partnership Agreement, under which we have implemented major infrastructure projects such as the building of the Afghan Parliament and the India-Afghanistan Friendship Dam. Indeed, our progress so far would not have been possible without the hard efforts of the previous co-chairs and hosts of this important process. In this regard, we remain grateful to the Republic of Turkey, the Republic of Kazakhstan, the People's Republic of China, and the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. I also want to recognize our esteemed guests attending this conference, the Austrian Republic, Republic of Latvia, the Bulgarian Republic, and the Republic of Uzbekistan. We look forward to facilitating their joining the Heart of Asia process as participating and supporting countries in the coming years. At the same time, we welcome with gratitude the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia's decision to join and support our collective efforts under all the confidence-building measures. And we thank the Aga Khan Development Foundation for joining and supporting the disaster management confidence-building measure. Please allow me to extend our sincere gratitude to the Republic of Azerbaijan for accepting to be the co-chair and host of the next ministerial conference in 2017. Given the regional connectivity projects underway, especially in the light of the Lapis Lazuli Corridor Agreement to be finalized soon, Azerbaijan's decision to co-chair this process is timely and much appreciated. Excellencies, strengthening regional cooperation remains an important pillar of Afghanistan's foreign policy. The Heart of Asia process has been instrumental in furthering this objective, as it enables all of us to collaborate on a wide range of security and development issues of common interest and concern. Since November 2001, when we first met, the Heart of Asia region has increasingly recognized the nature of our interdependent fate. This requires that we all work together to stabilize Afghanistan and to bolster region's security and to unleash and harness our collective potential for ensuring prosperity throughout the Heart of Asia region. Ladies and gentlemen, despite our gains in this process, there is much to be done to address the remaining challenges. Lingering security threats posed by terrorism and radicalism remain our primary concern. In this regard, I am pleased to report that the initial draft of the Heart of Asia counter-terrorism strategy, which has been drafted in response to Article 25 of the Islamabad Declaration, was shared with all the countries participating in the counter-terrorism CBM this past October. We are grateful to the Russian Federation and the Republic of Turkey for sending us their feedback, as we encourage others to follow suit soon. This would enable us to finalize the strategy for endorsement in a high-level regional security conference to be held in Kabul. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, to make the process more result-oriented, I would like to draw your attention to a progress assessment of the CBMs, which was recently launched by our Regional Cooperation Directorate. I encourage the participating and supporting partners of the process to study the progress assessment and consider implementing its vital recommendations. Doing so will go a long way in actually executing our common objectives while addressing Afghanistan's and regional needs. Let me conclude by extending our sincere appreciation to the Republic of India for its remarkable leadership as this year's co-chair, and to Azerbaijan for their willingness to co-chair and the process in 2017. I also appreciate the European Union's support to the Heart of Asia team at the Regional Cooperation Directorate at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I thank you.
Thank you, sir. Excellencies, we will now listen to the address of the President of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan, Dr. Mohammad Ashraf Ghani.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful. Prime Minister Modi, distinguished foreign ministers and other ministers, heads of delegations, ladies and gentlemen. Heart of Asia is meeting at a time of great opportunity and significant threats for Afghanistan, with Asia-wide and global implications. Taking stock of the emerging patterns and trends of the year since our meeting in Islamabad last year will help us prepare for 2017 and beyond. But let me first begin by thanking you and the Indian people for hosting us today in the historic and beautiful city of Amritsar, a city that used to be the center of bills of exchange and commerce connecting India to Central Asia, Russia, and Middle East and beyond. And thank you for the visit to the Golden Temple. It was an exceptionally moving event. Mr. Prime Minister, you honored us by visiting Afghanistan twice this year to inaugurate two important iconic projects. The Afghan Parliament will stand as an enduring testament of the enduring relationship between the world's largest democracy and a people in government committed to the realization of democratic rights and obligations of a free citizenry enshrined in our Constitution. The Afghan-India Friendship Dam at Salma, generating 42 megawatts of power and storing 650 million cubic meters of water, and finished after 40 years of waiting, will bring light and improved lives to the people of Herat. No wonder that your visit was greeted with spontaneous celebrations across Afghanistan. Equally significant, the trilateral agreement signed in Tehran between India, Iran, and Afghanistan on the port of Chabahar is a major step in transforming Afghanistan from a landlocked country to a land bridge. Your words, assuring the Afghan people of the support of 1.25 billion strong Indian people, have been quickly matched by deeds, as demonstrated by your pledge of $1 billion of new development assistance. As we have welcomed nearly 1 million of our refugees, the new portfolio of programs and projects made possible by your assistance will reproduce, expand, and consolidate the billions of historic bonds between the two nations dedicated to empowerment of their people in peace and prosperity through cooperation. The agreed cargo air corridor to be soon launched will give Indian and Afghan consumers and producers unimpeded access to each other's products and services. Afghan students, over 20,000 of whom are currently enrolled in India, are marked for playing a significant role in leading and managing Afghanistan's transition to prosperity and stability. India's support is impressive both in its scale and its system of delivery. India's assistance is state to state, aimed at improving people's lives and well-being. It is transparent and without strings attached. There are no hidden agreements in secret conditions. It is convergence of interests and values of two states inspired by the belief in cooperative advantage. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, the renewal of international commitment to the people of Afghanistan during 2016 has been impressive. President Obama's historic decision in committing U.S. forces will be respected and remembered by us as a decision for securing our future. We thank the President and his national security team for respecting the sacrifice of our defense and security forces and for trusting our resolve to fight corruption and putting our house in order. Commitment of $15 billion to fund the 354,000-strong ANDSF, the renewal of the Resolute Support Mission, and commitments by the assembled countries to have their sons and daughters serve in the Resolute Support Mission during the NATO summit in Warsaw provided us with a medium-term horizon to strengthen the capacity and capability of our forces. We thank President Obama, Chancellor Merkel, Prime Minister Cameron and Renzi, President Erdogan, and other leaders for forging the summit's consensus on Afghanistan. The $15.2 billion commitment at Brussels in support of our peace and development framework was even more impressive, for it took place against the backdrop of arguments regarding aid fatigue and competing global priorities. Our intense focus on reforms and our productive dialogues with our development partners, however, resulted in a resounding success. We take the pledges, as I said at the concluding press conference, as a line of credit to be translated into commitments and disbursements against substantial and sequential reforms. We thank all of you for your participation and pledges, particularly the effort by Vice President Mogherini and her staff at the European Union and US's advocacy efforts on our behalf. Believing that deepening and broadening of partnership requires constant work and investment in relation building, we neither took the Warsaw nor the Brussels pledges for granted. Instead, we focused on making our case by deeds in the arenas of the battlefield and in the reform of governance, ranging from revenue collection to the overhauling of rule of law institutions. We thank you for the opportunity for engagement and your appreciation of the complexity of the challenges facing us. With the medium-term horizon made possible by Warsaw and Brussels, we are now embarking on an earnest effort to ensure the stability and security of our country and the well-being of our people. Momentum towards this objective, however, requires a framework and an action plan for addressing the distinctively Asian, or more accurately, the Eurasian dimensions of our potential, as Russia is a significant stakeholder and interlocutor, so that our potential and our problems can be faced. Hence the relevance of today's deliberations in the Heart of Asia Istanbul process and the relevance to Afghanistan in Asia's linked destiny. Let me thank the government of Turkey for having formulated the Istanbul process, a dialogue that successively is becoming more productive and encompassing in equally the Republic of Kazakhstan, the People's Republic of China, and the Islamic Republic of Pakistan for previously hosting this conference. And let me extend our thanks to Azerbaijan for agreeing to co-host the next year's meeting. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Asia's transformation from a concept into a continental economy on the one hand, and the terrible price wrought by the fifth wave of political violence and terrorism on our societies and polities on the other, define the stage for the realization of our potential and the setting for our problems. Connectivity. As the experience of North America and the first global surge in investment in transportation in the 19th century shows, is the key to weaving a landmass into an integrated economic system. Independent states of Central Asia and the Caucasus have demonstrated the transformative impacts of investing in connectivity. Turkmenistan articulated the concept of connectivity corridors in September 2014 and sustainable transportation last week. Afghanistan is a major beneficiary of this approach, as our people are celebrating the inauguration of the dry port of Aqina on October 28 across our land. Aqina's impact is in its network effect, for it enables access to the enormous transportation network that links Turkmenistan to the system of its neighbors and their neighbors. Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, Georgia on the one side, and of course then Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, to Russia and beyond in Europe. Equally, the arrival of the first consignments of goods from China through Uzbekistan to the port of Hayratan is a demonstration of the flows to come. We're very pleased with our intense dialogue with the leadership of Uzbekistan and China and look forward to the increasing scale of our interactions. Equally significant is the tripartite agreement between India, Iran, and Afghanistan on the port of Chabahar and the project under implementation to link the city of Herat to the Iranian railway and port system. The reduction in cost of transport and unpredictability will enable us to increase the effectiveness and efficiency of our developmental efforts, thereby bringing visible changes to the lives of our people. When network and cluster effect combine, the scale of change becomes irreversible. Each new connection produces a network effect, but when the points are connected to each other, it produces a combined developmental impact that can lift our people from poverty to prosperity. TAPI is an illustration of cluster effect. Initially conceived as a pipeline, the concept is now being broadened to a cluster of a pipeline, transmission line, fiber optic network, a railway, roads, and airports, creating an integrated system of connectivity between Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and India. Our location at the heart of Asia in the recent momentum gives us the confidence that investments in connectivity in Afghanistan can have Asia-wide impacts and implications. Our cluster approach to infrastructure development to integrate our dispersed spaces into an integrated system and open up the arteries of heart of Asia is therefore our top development priority. Imagine a railway system reinforced by the rest of cluster linking China to Iran, Pakistan, and India. Our initial assessment shows that up to 15,000 megawatts of power from Central Asia can be transferred to South Asia, and that within 5 years, Afghanistan can be transformed from an importer of power to a transmission center and exporter of power. Our ability to attract $900 million of private sector investment in the power sector in the last 5 months, of which $700 million is from Afghan entrepreneurs, demonstrates that we are beginning to gain the trust of the private sector. We invite firms from all of your countries to make a difference while making a legitimate profit. Making the railway happen, however, requires a combined effort of partner countries and development organizations, and we hope to convince you of the wisdom of the investment. Afghanistan must come out of dependency on aid, and we can. Our hydrocarbon and mineral wealth is estimated at trillions of dollars and we have the potential to harness around 26 billion cubic meters of water. Timely, efficient, and effective support through global and Asian coordination to support our infrastructure system will enable us to achieve self-reliance rapidly, thereby enabling our people to lift themselves from poverty to prosperity. Use of existing and development of new financing and risk guarantee instruments will be critical to the achievement of our common objective. Even more significantly, we must confront the specter in the room, the fifth wave of political violence and terrorism. Distinguished leaders, ladies and gentlemen, a poor developing country in a normal regional and international context has the luxury to articulate a vision and develop an action plan for its sequential realization. We unfortunately do not have this luxury. The challenges that we confront are chain-linked, complex, and highly interdependent, requiring alignment of actions at the Asian, global, Islamic, national, and regional levels. As the weak link in the chain defines the speed of movement, we have no choice but to focus on crisis management and change management simultaneously, while paying close attention to building and deepening of our partnership. At the heart of the problem are the nature, scale, and scope of the fifth wave of political violence and terrorism. As the frontline society and polity confronting the wave, we've paid and are paying a huge price in lost lives and denied opportunities. Last year, we suffered the highest number of civilian casualties in military-related deaths in the world. This is unacceptable. It's unavoidable. It can be avoided. It is not unavoidable. Judging by the previous four waves of violence, covering the period from 1860s to 1990s, confronting this wave requires a strategy of 10 to 20 years, as acknowledged by the Australian Defence Policy. The fifth wave builds upon, incorporates, and amplifies the techniques of violence and destructiveness of the previous four waves, starting with anarchism. Its network effect is, however, intensified as it exploits the huge potential of face-to-Facebook rather than face-to-face relationship of the past. As disrupting the social contract between the citizen and the state through an all-out attack on freedoms embodied in the creation of the nation-state and the international system is the core objective of the fifth wave. Mobilization of the state system at all levels is crucial to defeating and destroying this wave of violence against citizens and states. We see 5 interrelated phenomena. First, criminal economic networks centered on drugs, smuggling, human trafficking, and other illicit activities provide the platform for criminal politics. Like the drug wars of Latin America, narcotics are a major driver of violence. Second, close to 30 groups classified as terrorists by the United Nations are attempting to establish a base in our country in order to destabilize their countries of origin in the region and the world. Third, the military operations in Pakistan have brought a major but selective displacement of the Pakistani extremist networks and their allies onto Afghanistan. Fourth, despite our intense engagement with Pakistan on bilateral and multilateral basis, the undeclared war, the name that I give to the phenomena in winter of 2014, not only has not abated, but also intensified during 2016, with special intensity right after the Brussels conference. Our highest rate of use of force and organized defense of our country took place between October 4th and November 28th. Fifth, the response of the states has been fragmented, and some still provide sanctuary and support or tolerate these networks. As Mr. Kakazada, one of the key figures in the Taliban movement, recently said, if they did not have sanctuary in Pakistan, they would not last a month. We need intense dialogue and engagement. I therefore conclude with proposing the following. One, to tackle criminal economics, we need to convene at the Asia and regional way and document who benefits from producing, processing, trafficking, and consuming. This requires an international effort without blame game to be able to uproot the basis of this phenomenon. Second, we propose an Asian and international regime. Whatever is acceptable, particularly to our neighbor in Pakistan, to verify cross-frontier activities and terrorist operations. We do not want blame game, we want verification. Thirdly, there's need for a fund to combat extremism. Pakistan is generously pledged $500 million for reconstruction of Afghanistan. This fund, Minister Aziz, could be very well used for containing extremism, because without peace, any amount of assistance will not meet the needs of our people. We have balancing the opportunities and the threats. I'm confident that focused, deliberate, systematic effort can enable us to win a world and to make Afghanistan and Asia secure. Once again, thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. President. I now request the Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi ji, to address this conference.
Your Excellency, Dr. Mohammad Ashraf Ghani, President of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan, Your Excellency Salahuddin Rabbani, Foreign Minister of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan, my colleague Minister Sri Arun Jaitley ji, Foreign Ministers, heads of the delegations, ladies and gentlemen, Namaskar, Sat Sri Akal. It is an honor to speak at the inaugural session of the 6th Ministerial Conference of the Heart of Asia, Istanbul process on Afghanistan. And it is a particular pleasure to jointly inaugurate this conference with our friend and partner, President Ashraf Ghani of Afghanistan. I thank Excellency Ghani for accepting my invitation and for gracing this conference. It is also a great privilege for me to welcome all of you in Amritsar, a city blessed with simplicity, beauty, and spirituality, and about to the Golden Temple, the holiest shrines of Sikhs. It is a place made sacred by Sikh Gurus who meditated here. It embodies peace and humanism and is open to all people and religions. Streets and sparks tell stories of great valor and immense sacrifice. It is a city whose character has been shaped by proud patriotism and generous philanthropy of its residents, and by their spirit of enterprise, creativity, and hard work. Amritsar also happens to nurture an old and steadfast connection of warmth and affection with Afghanistan. Among the earliest disciples of the first Guru of Sikhs, Baba Guru Nanak Dev Ji, were Afghans in Kabul in the 15th century. Even today, the shrine of an Afghan origin Sufi saint, Baba Hazrat Sheikh, in Punjab, is revered by all faiths, including visitors from Afghanistan. The flow of trade, people, and ideas through our region has often intersected in Amritsar on one of the Asia's oldest and longest surface arteries, the Grand Trunk Road. Amritsar reinforces the value of restoring connectivity, which is so crucial for the overall growth, stability, and economic prosperity of Afghanistan. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, since the turn of this century, the international community has extensively engaged in Afghanistan. Major powers, regional countries, and concerned nations from around the world have cooperated through multiple programs of political, social, military, economic, and developmental support. Our gathering today reaffirms the commitment of the international community to durable peace and lasting political stability in Afghanistan. Our words and actions remain focused at advancing a critical unfinished mission of our time, and that is to help Afghanistan build and strengthen its social, political, and institutional fabric, secure its territory and citizens from external threats, spur its economic and development activity, and stage a stable and prosperous future for its people. Indeed, this is also the intent of this conference, aptly captured in its theme, addressing challenges, achieving prosperity. We have no doubt about the scale of the challenge, but we are equally determined to succeed. The results of our collective efforts thus far have been hard-won but mixed. There have been important successes. Much more remains to be done. The need of the hour is to stand our ground and continue with our line of effort. We must protect and build on the gains of the last 15 years and march ahead. Because at stake is not just the future of Afghanistan that has been invested in a vision of development, democracy, and pluralism, but the peace and stability of this entire region and beyond. Let us also reflect with urgency on what more must be done and what we must avoid in Afghanistan so that its citizens can self-sustain peace and economic growth. The answers are all there. The question is of resolve and action, and of putting Afghanistan and its people first. For this first, an Afghan-led, Afghan-owned, and Afghan-controlled process is the key. It is the only guarantor of durability of solutions. The second, we must demonstrate strong collective will to defeat terror networks that cause bloodshed and spread fear. Terrorism externally induce instability pose the gravest threat to Afghanistan's peace, stability, and prosperity. And the growing arc of terrorist violence endangers our entire region. As such, support for Voices for Peace in Afghanistan alone is not enough. It must be backed by resolute action, not just against forces of terrorism, but also against those who support, shelter, train and finance them. Silence and inaction against terrorism in Afghanistan and our region will only embolden terrorists and their masters. The third, our bilateral and regional commitments of material assistance for Afghanistan's development and humanitarian needs must continue and increase. Our cooperative endeavors in Afghanistan should contribute to its infrastructure and institutional capacity and self-propelling engines of growth. Fourth, we should all work to build stronger positive connectivity between Afghanistan and other countries of the region. Afghanistan should be at the center of our connectivity networks, not peripheral up to them. On our part, we see Afghanistan as the hub for strengthening links of connectivity between South Asia and Central Asia. We cannot deny that the more connected Afghanistan is with the regional arteries of trade, capital, and markets, the more assured would be its economic growth and progress. President Ghani and I have conversed on the priority of the strengthening trade and transport linkages with other partners in the region. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, on India's part, our commitment to our brave Afghan brothers and sisters is absolute and unwavering. The welfare of Afghanistan and its people is close to our heart and our minds. The successful record of our partnership in projects, big and small, in Afghanistan speaks for itself. The principal dimension of our cooperation has always been its people-centric nature. Our joint efforts educate Afghans young and nurture their skills, provide health care and improve agriculture, build infrastructure and institutions, and allow traders and small businesses in Afghanistan to connect with immense commercial and economic opportunities in India. And the reach and benefit of such efforts extend to all corners of Afghanistan. Herat's India-Afghanistan Friendship Dam, also called the Salma Dam, that was launched a few months ago, will help revive economic activity for the people there. The Parliament building in Kabul represents our strong commitment to Afghanistan's democratic future. Tehran-Dalaram Highway and India-Afghanistan-Iran cooperation on Chabahar would enable Afghanistan to link its economy with centers of strong economic growth in South Asia and beyond. We also plan to connect Afghanistan with India through an air transport corridor. President Ghani and I have discussed additional measures for deepening our bilateral cooperation. We are making progress in developing plans for utilization of the additional $1 billion earmarked by India for capacity and capacity building in Afghanistan. It will extend to areas like water management, health, infrastructure, energy, and skill development. As India implements its additional commitments, we are open to work with other like-minded partners for the development of Afghanistan. We are also happy to note the international commitment at the Brussels conference in October and NATO's Warsaw Summit in July this year. We will continue efforts to scale up our ambition and dedication to assist Afghanistan. In this, we draw upon lessons learned and best practices derived from our shared experiences in working on projects. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let us remember that every passing day we help Afghanistan to achieve successful political, security, and economic transition. We are also helping ourselves create a more peaceful region and world. I hope that your deliberations will produce constructive and forward-looking pathways for action that promote cooperation in place of conflict, development in place of need, and security in place of terrorism. Let us rededicate ourselves to making Afghanistan a geography of peace, a place where reason and peace succeeds, progress and prosperity prevails, and democracy and plurality wins. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. To conclude this inaugural session, I would now like to invite Dr. General V.K. Singh to address the vote of thanks.
Distinguished colleagues, on behalf of all of us, I profoundly thank Honorable President of Islamic Republic of Afghanistan, His Excellency Dr. Ashraf Ghani, and the Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi ji, for gracing the inaugural session of the 6th Ministerial Conference of the Heart of Asia Istanbul process in Amritsar with their august presence. I also thank them for guiding us with their inspirational words and deep wisdom. Their addresses have fittingly set the tone for our discussions in the conference today, and I'm confident that the deliberations here will reflect the vision shared by both the leaders for the region. I would also very much like to thank the Honorable Finance Minister of India and the Honorable Foreign Minister of Afghanistan for gracing the occasion. In their able hands, the success of this conference lies through their constructive and productive discussions in the further sessions today. I would like to thank all the Heart of Asia countries, delegates from supporting countries, organizations, and also the guest countries who have taken the trouble to travel all the way to Amritsar for attending this conference. We keenly look forward to their active participation and valuable contribution. Last but not the least, on behalf of my country, India, which is co-chair of the Heart of Asia process this year, I would like to thank the permanent co-chair, Afghanistan, for their cooperation and shepherding the process. It has been a privilege and pleasure for India to work with them. Thank you very much indeed.
Excellencies, please remain seated while the principals leave the conference hall. I would also like to announce that there will be a 15 minutes tea and coffee break thereafter.
तो ये था इस समय तक का आपका अमृतसर में जो छठा हमारा हार्ट ऑफ एशिया सम्मेलन था, इसका सीधा प्रसारण अभी आप देख पा रहे हैं.
Well, it was an amazing session that we've just had. Both the co-hosts and the co-chairs looking very positively towards the future of cooperation and working together with the other partner countries.
और अब हम अपने तमाम दर्शकों से विदा लेंगे, ये कहते हुए कि